This episode is brought to you by ProMensal.
Estrogen is really important for cartilage, and as you decrease in your estrogen through your perimenopausal years, the cartilage is just not as good as it used to be. It's not as spongy and makes it a little bit harder to move as smoothly all the time.
Welcome to Thriving in Menopause, brought to you by Prevention Magazine. I'm Andrea Duval. On this podcast, we talk a lot about the hormone estrogen, but one thing that's surprised me is that estrogen plays an important role in our joint health. And with me to explain more is physiotherapist Rebecca Sabine. She's the Managing Director and Senior Physiotherapist at Vital Core Physiotherapy in Adelaide. Welcome, Beck.
Thank you very much for having me.
So I'm very intrigued. Can you explain estrogen's role in keeping our joints healthy?
Estrogen is so important to us, which I don't need to tell you. So in our joints, we have cartilage. Cartilage is what connects one bone to the other. So we think of our knee in particular. So our knee has cartilage on the bones. When you stand or when you walk, you put pressure through the bones, which puts pressure through the cartilage. That cartilage compresses much like a sponge. And then as you take the weight off, as you're stepping up, that sponge sucks fluid in, and that fluid is nutrients and all sorts of goodies. And then as you step again, that sponge gets compressed and those goodies and other waste products get squeezed out. And that's a really important way of keeping our cartilage healthy or our joints healthy. Estrogen is really important for that cartilage. And as you decrease in your estrogen through your perimenopausal years, that architecture of the sponge, of the cartilage, is just not as good as it used to be. It's not as spongy. It doesn't pull fluid in as well. It doesn't push it out as well. And it means that it just doesn't work quite as well as it did and makes it a little bit harder to move as smoothly all the time. And we tend to be a little bit sorer when we do a little bit more than we should.
So what kind of issues do you see women having in their 40s and 50s as a result of this?
So through the 40s and the 50s, as your estrogen is decreasing, there's lots of things that happen to these women, us, and that is that they start to get more joint pain for that exact reason. And so the things that they used to do in their 20s and 30s that would give them no problems at all, they do them in their 40s and their 50s, and suddenly they start to get sore. And they get sore through their knees, through their ankles, through their backs, through all the joints of their body, even their fingers and their toes. And that's because estrogen is in all of the joints of the body. And so any of them can get sore, and sometimes some more than others. But as well as that, they also tend to get sore in tendons. So tendons are the bit that attach the muscles to the bones, because tendons are also really, really rich estrogen receptors. And as women get older in their 40s and 50s, and as they're in perimenopause, and as we know, we tend to gain a little bit of weight, a lot of women will try to combat that by doing a little bit more exercise, which is great. But again, like I said before, they don't respond like they did when they were in their 20s and 30s, and they tend to get more sore. And so they have these joint problems, or they get these tendon problems, which we might think of as bursitis, a shoulder bursitis or a hip bursitis, or a plantar fascia issue, or heel spurs are another classic one. But realistically, they're all associated with that decrease in estrogen in either the tendons or the joints.
So is arthritis one of those as well?
Yeah, arthritis is one of those. And there's certainly some lovely research that shows that now that with a decrease in estrogen, it does get sore and it can cause problems. And yes, it's often described as arthritis.
I was interested when you talked to me recently about how there's a big shift in how women see themselves when they hit perimenopause, and you think that's also part of this picture.
Yeah, very much. So the women's body image and self-esteem can really take a hit during these years. With that decrease in estrogen, there is that little bit of a weight gain, which is very common, and we know it's commonly around the tummy and around the boobs. So And it's not about wanting to be skinny. It's just that change in look to what they're used to. Again, estrogen's everywhere. So there's a decrease in muscle bulk. So their legs that used to be lovely and big and strong may start to look a bit more pin-like, which is just different. They start to get a little bit sorer, as we said, through the joints. They can start to have some pelvic floor dysfunction as well. And so they just start to not feel as comfortable in their own skin. They tend to become, I keep saying we tend to become more observers, I think, in what's going on rather than doers. We'll walk down to the beach and we'll sit carefully under the shade with our 50 plus on, with their hat on, and we'll watch the kids come running and drop their towels and scream into the water. But we wouldn't think of doing it ourselves, which we used to do. And so, yeah, we start to, I think, lose that idea of what we're actually capable of.
That sort of physical spontaneity leaves us. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, it does. It does. And some of that is because we are physically different to what we were when we were 20 and 30, and that we don't have that strength, that power, that spring in our body to do those things. But some of it's also, I really think, because we have this different vision of ourselves as to what we're capable of now.
Oh, that's really interesting. So, Beck, what should we be doing to look after our joints?
We have to move. We have to move and we have to move. We have to move as much as we possibly can.
Which sounds counterintuitive given what you were saying earlier.
It does. Yeah, that's right. So if we move lots, we will maximise what we've got. That's one of the biggest things. So as much as we say, okay, as we're getting older, our joints aren't working as well, our tendons aren't working as well, but they're still working. And the less you do, the less you'll be able to do, is one of the classic catch cries.
Move it or lose it.
Yeah, that perimenopausal stage and going into menopause, postmenopause, it's that we want to do at least the bare minimum. So the physical activity and exercise guidelines for all Australians is it's up to 5 hours of moderate intensity exercise every week, which is, move most days, go for a walk most days.
I thought it was 150 minutes.
It's 150 minutes up to 5 hours.
Okay. A minimum of 150 minutes.
Yeah, a minimum, that's right. And so we want to have that moderate intensity of exercise, but we also want to have some strength or resistance exercise in there as well. And it doesn't have to be, right, you have to join the gym. It can be that on your lunch break, you go for a walk rather than spending every lunchtime in the tea room, that you get up on a Saturday morning and immediately put your sneakers on and go and do something, or you look at that garden and go, right, I'm going to clean that garden up for the next 45 minutes to an hour. And that will go a long way to helping your joints. So yes, they're not as robust as they were, but they still are really good. They're really capable.
That's interesting, because I noticed you talking about things like gardening. It's not that, I have to do a gym class. There are things that we do. Housework's a great one. We're doing huff and puff exercise and we're lifting and hoiking things around. Yeah.
So we need to be moving, push, pull, lift, squat regularly. That doesn't mean go and pick up the 20-kilo bag of compost. That might be beyond you. But whatever you are capable of, you need to do it, and do it really regularly. And if you need help in working that out, you come and see a physio, and we do help you with that.
Let's talk about some of the structured exercises, because, you'd have to call this the decade of Pilates. It is having a moment. Are softer movements like that a good choice?
It is. It's absolutely the decade of Pilates, or it might be the 25 years or something of Pilates. And Pilates is great. It's a lovely, safe option for the majority of people to start exercising. If it's done with equipment, then the movements are all really nicely supported. So absolutely, Pilates is certainly one style of exercise that I do really like, and I do recommend people do. However, I would like to see women doing harder, stronger weights. It's very hard to maximize muscular strength in a Pilates studio. We really do need to lift weights, push weights that are very challenging to us in a variety of different positions. And I really don't think Pilates can maximize that muscular strength component, although it is still a good option. And if you love it, do it.
We'll be right back after this.
Perimenopause can actually start in your 40s. Declining estrogen production during perimenopause brings on changes to menstrual cycles and often the onset of hot flushes, night sweats, mood swings, and sexual problems. Promensal Peri is specifically designed for perimenopausal women and can help relieve these common menopausal symptoms. Promensal Peri is available at leading pharmacies across Australia and offers a cost-effective treatment at under $1 a day. When things start to change, try Promensal Peri. Always read the label and follow the directions for use.
Okay, we're back. What about yoga then? Because you are lifting your own body weight.
Yeah, absolutely. So yoga is really a really interesting one. I'm a terrible yogi. I'm not very flexible, but therefore it's something that I probably should do more of, because with yoga, you move your body and you twist your body in ways that perhaps you just would never do any other time. I really do like it. Of course, you've got to do, like any exercise, you do it to the level you're capable of. But absolutely, there's lots of body weight, joint and tendon loading that occurs with yoga that I think is really, really good. So I guess with these structured exercise classes, you want to find the class that you really do enjoy doing, because if you enjoy doing it, you're more likely to do it. If you're a beginner, you really do need to find a beginner class. That's really, really important. And I do like beginner classes that are run by women of 40 or 50 plus years of age. And not because younger instructors can't teach it, but I just like these slightly older, more mature instructors, because I feel they have a better understanding of the perimenopausal body.
That makes sense. So what can women do at home that doesn't involve expensive gym memberships?
Yes. Yeah, and that's a great question, because that's what people ask all the time. So one of the biggest things women can do is, on your day off or when you get home from work, put your sneakers on and your comfy clothes on. So if you put those things on, you're more likely to do exercise. One of the biggest barriers to any person exercising is getting those shoes on. So it doesn't have to be fancy sneakers, doesn't have to be fancy clothes. It just needs to be comfy and supportive shoes. So then you can go, well, what could I do to get my 150 minutes to 5 hours of exercise each week, right? So we might look at the housework. Yes, how long does it take you to clean your house? Don't perhaps do it all at once if you haven't done that sort of thing before. But you might go, actually, no, it does. It takes me 45 minutes to clean the house, or it takes me nearly an hour. All right, well, it takes you nearly an hour, then we'll take 1 hour off of your weekly total. I really need to go out and sweep the deck. Right, well, let's do that. But rather than just doing 5 minutes with it, do your 20 minutes, as long as your shoulders and your back can cope. But you can do all these activities, things that push, pull, lift, make you squat, make you a little bit huffy and puffy, and do it for a period of time that is enough. And everyone's going to be a little bit different with that. If you haven't done it before, then don't start with an hour. You might start with 10 minutes and build up to the hour.
Yeah.
But we all know we've got jobs at home that make us a bit hot and sweaty. Well, write them down and make your list of things and work on the things that you're going to do throughout the week. If you're a beginner, you might start with your 150 minutes, and that might be way or less than that. You might be building to 150 minutes. It's an easy way if you make your lists of things that you can do around the house and work out your time frame.
So, Beck, I wanted to ask you, I think especially during lockdown, a lot of women and men too turned to classes on YouTube or on their computer. What do you think of that versus actually going to a class in a real life situation?
What it has done, it has really allowed people to exercise at home. And because of how many people were putting up exercise videos, a lot of these are on YouTube free of charge. So people that really could never afford or didn't feel comfortable going and doing an exercise class in a group of people can now do it in their comfort of their own home. So bringing exercise to people, I think it's been absolutely fabulous. Of course, what also comes with that is that people are doing things and hurting themselves. We as in physios, tweak their program to suit them.
Are there any other important things that you want to say to women, things they can do to ease or prevent muscle pain?
Well, it does mean increasing your daily activity. It does mean watching your nutrition. It does mean managing your weight. Keeping your weight under control is really challenging. However, if you can keep your BMI down below the 25, which is obese, it decreases joint pain. It decreases systemic inflammation. And so that's really, really important. But yeah, make some goals of what you would like to be able to do. Make big, scary goals. Make challenging goals. Make goals that you would have made when you were 20. And then work out the steps to achieving it. Work out what the timeline needs to be. Work out the steps to achieving it. Because I think that's the way we start to really realise what we're actually capable of. Rather than sort of fading and becoming that, what do they call us? The invisible generation, where that middle age, where we tend to sit and watch. So move more, make big goals, get the people around you that you need to help you achieve those goals, and don't be invisible.
We'll be right back after this. Okay, we're back. Can I talk to you a little bit about arthritis?
So, yeah, it's commonly diagnosed in the late 40s and early 50s, which is not surprisingly around the perimenopausal years or the menopause years. And the reason it's diagnosed is because people go to their doctor in pain, and they've got these sore, stiff, achy joints. And so they get their imaging done, and the imaging often shows that they've got damage to their joints, and it's diagnosed as arthritis. So it's a very common thing to happen. I would, and the Physio Association, all of us, would challenge that and say, well, yes, your joints, your cartilage has become less resilient, as we talked about earlier. And so therefore, perhaps a little bit more, it's not even fragile. It's just more like to be a bit sore. It doesn't move quite as smooth. But the actual structure of your cartilage probably hasn't changed that much in the past 10 to 15 years, but you weren't sore 10, 15 years ago. So yes, you've got the arthritis, but you've only just become sore. So isn't that an estrogen thing, maybe?
So the question is, does it always end up with knee or hip replacements?
Hopefully not. Hopefully not. And certainly these days, our doctors, the majority of the doctors, are really encouraging people to go to physios and do the strengthening programs. There's evidence-based exercise programs such as the GLAD program, which is for knee arthritis. And they certainly found a decrease in people needing total knee replacements as a result of that. What it's showing is by making your joints stronger, making you more capable, you have less pain. And the reason to have a knee replacement or a hip replacement is because the pain is intolerable. So
Wow.
Exercise hard and you will have less pain. Yeah.
That's really interesting. So there is a move away then from the idea of, oh, you're in pain, let's give you new knees or, bionic hips.
Absolutely. Yeah. So we've still got those as options, and there's still plenty of people that will need those options. But we've now got lots of steps before that, and we've got lots of physios and scientists and surgeons who are going, no, let's give these joints a fighting chance by making them strong again. If the reason people are going in for surgery is for pain, well, can we get rid of that pain or decrease that pain so that it's manageable in a way that doesn't involve surgery? Because surgery has so many risks. It's not just about the knee or the hip.
one of the exciting things these days is the amount of research that's being done into the body that's uncovering and discovering all sorts of insights that we can benefit from. And recently there was a look at hip pain in postmenopausal women. What did it find?
Yes, so there's been lots of studies being done on the role of different forms of hormone replacement therapy on aches and pains. And one of the most recent ones done at La Trobe Uni was looking at HRT or placebo combined with exercise and education in postmenopausal women with hip pain. And what it found was actually the exercise and education was the most important rather than the HRT or the placebo. So firstly, get the exercise, get the education, and people will feel better. But interestingly, in women that had a BMI below 25, so they weren't obese, they had a further reduction in symptoms. And that's, hip pain. And we're talking about, with that one, it was particularly talking about tendon hip pain. But it's really, really encouraging for the role of estrogen supplementation in pain in postmenopausal women.
Yeah. And another insight into why we all need a really good pair of sneakers.
Absolutely. We need a good pair of sneakers. You need some comfy clothes, a good pair of sneakers, and that's about it. And some good advice. And
you've given us some great advice today. Thanks, Beck. That's all we have time for today. Listeners, thanks so much for joining us. Meanwhile, for more practical advice to help you live your best life at midlife, do pick up a copy of Prevention Magazine. I'm Andrea Duval, and I'll see you next time.